you could always leverage your experience, your strengths, the things that you like to do, and do those things only, and just become an expert at those things and just keep doing them over and over again. If you're passionate about it, just why not just keep doing what you're good at? And that way you can all with a team scale and do bigger things.
Hey everyone, we have Yuri Alex Gomez on our show today. So excited to have Yuri on the show today. I'll give you a quick introduction, but I'm sure Yuri will do a great job introducing himself and telling you all about all the great things he's up to. So Yuri is actually a man of many talents, I would say. He does so many different things. He's involved in the multifamily syndication space where he has over 500 units that he's involved in. He is a short-term investor as well. In terms of short-term rentals, he has some Airbnbs that he owns and manages as well. And he's been involved in the past in several different strategies in the real estate space, I'd say for almost a decade now. So yeah, without further ado, I'll let Yuri introduce himself, tell you all about the great stuff he's a part of right now. He has also, sort of attained the dream of leaving his corporate job behind, where he is now financially free, and real estate is able to fund his lifestyle and allow him to create the freedom, the time freedom that he I'm sure needed and wanted, especially with a very young family. So here's Yuri. Thanks, Yuri, for being on our show today.
Hello, Khadija and Jose. Very excited to be here on your show. And thank you for that kind introduction. But yeah, so I've been a real estate investor for about 8 years in a investing capacity, not just, buying the house where I lived in. And then I've always come from an entrepreneurial family. So I was working my W-2. I worked for over a decade in a W-2 job. And I always had in the back of my mind, this is not what I want to do. I know that there are better things where I can invest my time in. And, and then real estate was always something that's been in the family. My dad used to invest heavily in real estate in Colombia and not so much here. So I said to myself, okay, I speak English. That's one of the things that my dad wasn't able to do in the US as far as becoming an investor. And I have all the tools. I went to school here. I have been working for a W-2. I have all the tools that I need. So let me just start. And then by accident, I had a friend in Verizon that became an investor of real estate and started doing really well. He got into the short-term rental business. And then that was my first exposure to real estate at a little bit larger scale than just buying single-family homes.
Oh, amazing. And so what kind of corporate tell us a little bit about your corporate job and what you used to do at your previous at Verizon.
Absolutely. So I worked at Verizon and I started finance and I graduated in 2008. I wanted to work for a bank and no bank wanted to hire me at that time. There was a lot of trouble. Banks were downsizing because of the recession that was coming.
Yep.
And it was just a bad time for me to look for a job at a bank. So I had a friend that was in sales in Verizon and he was doing pretty well. And he told me, why do you apply? And I always said to myself, well, I went to school these many years. No, I want to do something that's more related to my job. I ended up just going into a retail store and I kind of did the whole career myself. I started as a customer service, sales, supervisor, assistant manager. Then I became a general manager of a corporate store. Did that for many years. And then I switched to the B2B side and I became an account manager, managing accounts of 500 employees. So I handled, I think my biggest account at the time had like 400 lines. So just managing those type of accounts. So I always dealt with decision makers, going on meetings. Then I started doing Zoom calls, virtual calls. So I always tell my wife that my W-2, without us knowing, was preparing me for what I'm doing today, which is exactly working on larger deals with investors and just inviting them to our projects.
Yeah, I know, and that's the reason I asked, because I'm always interested to learn about what they did previously and how those skills are transferable to what they do now. And some people start with exactly, you're dealing with a lot of investors right now. It's all about building relationships and giving them good customer service.
Absolutely. And that's always that. I just like talking to people. So as I was doing my smaller multifamily short-term rentals, I am also a house hacker. I realized that to scale, to do a bigger project in multifamily, you could always, you don't have to do everything. You could always leverage your experience, your strengths, the things that you like to do, and do those things only, and just become an expert at those things and just keep doing them over and over again. If you're passionate about it, just why not just keep doing what you're good at? And that way you can all with a team scale and do bigger things.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess walk us back in time. So, you started investing, you had this friend who had some impact on, getting you started in the journey. And like hearing your journey, just a little bit about what I know, it sounds like you made the leap pretty fast between smaller projects and then like going right into multifamily. So, what did you have? What was your portfolio like initially? Like, I know you were in the short-term rental space and you said you were a house hacker. Maybe tell us a little bit about that. And then tell us about why you made, like, cause I know there's a lot of people out there who will continue to accumulate small properties. Like they'll just every year buy a couple singles or buy a duplex or buy, smaller things. And that's kind of the realm of what they do. So it sounds like you did a little bit of that. And then at some point you made this transition. So maybe talk to us a little bit about what you were doing and, when and how you made that transition.
Yeah. And you are correct. The transition at some point started accelerating at a faster pace. And I think it's more my personality. I am just, when I worked at Verizon, in 11 years, I held 7 different positions. So I was always moving pretty fast. And I'm just always wanting to know what's the next thing that I can be good at. Always related to the same thing. I don't go for the shiny object. It always has to make sense. It has to be related to what I'm already doing, so I can continue to expand on what I'm growing. So yeah, to talk about my portfolio, my wife and I had 2 single family homes. Then with our mentor friend from Verizon, I was able to get all of the, I leveraged his experience, his knowledge, and we were able to buy a 4-plex between my wife, my dad. My brother ended up investing towards the end a small amount, and we all pitched in so we can buy a 4-plex. And that was like our first multifamily. So we jumped right in from single family to 4-plex without a lot of experience on rehabs, project managing. We didn't have a lot of experience in many things that we needed, but we had my mentor that was helping us throughout the way. And we decided, because he had a short-term rental business, we decided that we wanted to do that if the location of the property made sense, which it did. It was located in a desirable area where people like to go all year long. It is seasonal and cyclical, but all year long, you still get decent bookings. So we did that. Then we became house hackers. My wife and I bought a duplex where we rented an apartment that was 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and then we lived in the 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house, which is where we live now. So we did that. We did also a few fix and flips. I was involved in 5 projects overall, 3 fix and flip projects, and then 2 private lending projects for a fix and flip investor. And then after that, towards the end of last year, I started getting involved in larger multifamily, which is when we decided we wanted to scale, and it just made sense. And then that's when we got involved.
Yeah, I know. And we're gonna get into the multifamily side a little bit later, but I wanted to tell the audience as well that I actually got the opportunity to see your 4-unit 4-plex in St. Pete, which is just south of Tampa. Beautiful, like amazing, the amount of details you had. Just I was really impressed by what I saw and how you ran that short-term rental, and the numbers on it. Maybe we can share going to the numbers, which is what I was blown away by.
Thank you. No, I appreciate your kind words. So our business plan was to be the nicest Airbnbs in the area. So that was we wanted to do a business plan where that was what we achieved, because we knew that if we were the nicest Airbnbs in the area, our occupancy was going to be a little bit higher than the average. And also our average daily rate was also going to be higher. So we always knew that that's what we wanted to do. That's what was taught to us by our mentor. So what we did is we hired an interior designer so she can help us with a little bit with the renovations, but definitely buying the materials, choosing the materials to buy, changing the layout inside of the units. We got rid of a few walls. We added a bathroom to a couple of units. So we left 2 units as a 2-1. And then we converted the 2 more units from a 2-1 to a 2-2. So we added a bathroom. Since we were adding a bathroom, we said we might as well do plumbing. It was an older building. So we did plumbing, electrical. We changed a little bit the way the ducts of the AC were structured. So we did a lot of changes. It was a heavy renovation for us that we'd never done big rehabs before. We had 2 single families prior to that. And we had done some cosmetic stuff, nothing big. So we went right in. Talking about the numbers, the property right now, it's bringing a revenue of about, on average for the whole year, about $18,000 a month, which is about a 15 to 20% return. I say 15 to 20% because it's not exact. It is very cyclical. So it does fluctuate from year to year. If we have red tide, if a major storm comes to close to our area, so it is not the numbers are not exact every year, but they are pretty good, and that's equivalent to about a 15 to 20% return on our investment, which is great. Those numbers are good. They're great. We are happy. That's what allowed us to. For my wife and I, my wife quit her job in 2018. She worked for 11 years as a banker. She worked with internal auditor. She worked with risk at her bank. She quit, and then in 2021, early 2021, I quit my corporate job. So it was thanks in part to this property. We were also house hackers. So we have a tenant that pretty much pays our mortgage, which is nice. And then we have our short-term rental. And then we said we were gonna make up the rest of the income with being active in real estate, so doing fix and flips. And then we quickly realized that was not what we wanted to do. You get great return on investment, but you don't get great return on effort, which is something that I talk about a lot. And then with going back to my short-term rental, if I compare those 15, 20% returns that we're getting, if I were to put that in large multifamily, I can get those 15 to 20% returns, maybe even more, without doing anything. So as much as I like my Airbnbs, I will probably do more in the future, not in the short term. But I am not saying I will not do more. I will probably do it because I enjoy it, because we like it. We already know the systems that we can apply to, so it doesn't require as much work as it did at the beginning. So we already know that we can make it work in the future. But we also know that we can use those same funds, invest them passively in multifamily, long-term rents, large multifamily, and we don't have to do anything. So that's like the beauty of passive investing.
Yeah. And I mean, let's go back to that concept you talked about, return on effort, and talk to us a little bit about that. Like, let's talk deeply about that. And this thing about active versus passive real estate investing. So, I mean, real estate is just a platform. It's a vehicle, right? And people sort of lump it as like real estate investing. And I think when a lot of people think about real estate investing, a lot of people do think about active investing, because the first thing you'll hear for somebody who's not investing in real estate is, oh, I don't want to deal with those headaches, or I don't want to deal with, fixing toilets in the night or getting phone calls. And so very much so people think of it as an active investment, right? I mean, people who aren't in the space. But again, like I said, it's just a vehicle, and there's so many different things you can do within that vehicle that are either more of like an active business versus more of a passive investment. So yeah, let's talk about your opinion on this, and again, that concept about return on effort.
Yeah, that is correct. So you have active and you have passive. Passive investor simply invests money, doesn't have to put a lot of time and effort, doesn't require any knowledge, experience, just their money to invest. I guess the only effort would be to kind of look at the deal that they're going to invest in, and the operators that are going to manage that deal to make sure that the returns, that the business plan is implemented, and then that the returns are going to be there. So that after that, you invest and you just wait. Something I always say in my social media platform, it's I didn't make it up. It's been years, but I always say, don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate, then wait. So that's basically the passive role. You just invest money. You don't put any time and effort. It doesn't require any knowledge or experience, and then you wait. And then you have the active, which you're basically managing the asset. You're basically underwriting properties. You're underwriting deals. You do all the analyzing and kind of deciding using some assumptions if a deal is worth investing in. And then if you find a deal where the numbers work, then you have to, and because you find the deals, because you probably invested in broker relationships, so you did all of that. Then you found the deal. Now you have to find financing for the deal. You have to find investors, and you have to find a bank that's going to loan you, 70 to 80% of the investment of the project. Then you do that. Then you close. Then you operate. You have the asset managers that either you have an asset manager, a property manager, a third-party property manager is going to manage the property, or you are vertically integrated, and then you do the property management in-house. So that's a ton of work, and that encompasses the active portion of being an active investor. But there's also levels to being an active investor, which is what I like about investing in large multifamily. And I say levels because you can be active where it feels like a 9-to-5 job, or even a job where you're doing more than 8 hours a day. Maybe you're doing 10, 11, 12, 14 hours a day. So if you're a fix and flip investor, depending on how you structure your business, that may be the case where you're going to work, a ton. You're going to be very busy. Also, if you are part of the team that sources the deal, that finds the property, depending on how many people are helping you find the deal, you're probably also going to be working a lot. And then if you are bringing investors, that also requires a lot of work, but there's also a passive component to it, because after you brought the investors, then you're not doing a whole lot. Of course, you're also helping. You may be helping with the asset management. You're also attending due diligence, but there's levels to the active investor. So I always look at coming back to return on effort. When you look at return on investment, you're saying, okay, if I invest $100,000, how many years am I going to make it back? So if it's a 10% return on my investment, that means 10 years I'm going to make my money back. So return on effort is just simply a concept. What am I getting for all the work that I'm putting on the project? And that's when the decision factor to whether I want to be in the project or not is it really worth my time going into all these? And yeah, you're gonna learn a lot. You're gonna learn a lot of experience. You're gonna gain a lot of contacts. And I mean, when you're an active investor, there's always benefits. You gain a lot, but depending on the stage of your life where you are, if you have a family with, like, I have small children, or if you're going to school, if you have a master's, or if you have another job, depending on your profile and everything that you're doing, you have to decide, am I going to be a passive or active? And if I'm going to be an active investor, to what extent, to what level am I going to be active? Before you decide, you have to look at both things.
Right. So were you aware of this whole syndication model, and why did you go into larger multifamily, being part of larger multifamily? It was, I'm assuming, is very related to we just talked about the return on effort. You're not having to responsible to do all the work. You now have a team in place to kind of split the work, right?
Absolutely. So talking about the concept of return on effort and going back to my short-term rental, I love my short-term rental. That's a property that retired me from my W-2 job. It's the property that allows me to invest more time on my large multifamily projects. But if we're just only talking about, money and, if I can make 15-20% passively, if I invest $1 million and I can make 15-20% passively, then why invest that $1 million and get the same 15-20% return, but you now have to work? Short-term rental business, it's a lot of work, and yes, granted, it's not the same amount of work today as it was 2 years ago when we launched, when we were done with the renovations and we started actually getting bookings. We have automated a lot of things. We have done a lot of things to, we have a great cleaning crew. And I think that's one of the key things of operating a short-term rental. But I always knew in the back of my head, I always knew there were better options out there. I didn't know exactly what those options were. I am part of my local RIA in Sarasota, is the Real Estate Investors Association. And we're always sharing ideas. I'm always meeting investors that are way more experienced than I am. And there was an investor there that's actually pretty famous in Bigger Pockets. He's actually he's wrote a few books for Bigger Pockets. He's actually part of my local RIA, and I've read his books years ago. And it was very, for me, I was just very excited that I could see this person and these other great investors. Rockcliffe is always at our RIA.
Yeah.
Jay Scott is the actual investor I'm referring to from Bigger Pockets.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and he's a syndicator, and I started, I follow him on social media, and I started looking into this. And I also have a family member that told me about this about 2 years ago. He was it's more of a friend, but they're almost like family. And I always knew that somebody in my circle was doing that. I just didn't know exactly I didn't understand it well. I just, I didn't really pay too much attention to it. But now that I was in my RIA and I heard Jay Scott, with his social media and his in-person seminars that he would do for us at the RIA, I started understanding the concept better. And now I had done already small multifamily. I had done a few flips. So I guess my mindset, or I was in a position that I was ready to receive this information and think to myself, I can do this. So I said to myself, let me just start going to conferences, kind of seeing what's out there. And as I did that, I realized that it's actually easier to work on a 100 unit project than to work on a 10 unit project, depending on how you structure it, because you have a team. On a 100 unit project, you have a property manager, you have asset managers, you have the ones that are sourcing the deal, you have the ones that are bringing the capital, and then helping in other stuff. So you have a team in place, and it can actually be easier for you to scale faster. So that was kind of like, it was my aha moment when I was in the conferences. I realized it's not easy, but it's easier than if you try to do everything yourself on one smaller project. So
yeah, no, very well said. I wanted to kind of get into some of the markets that you have invested in and why you chose those markets. I know a big portion of your portfolio is in Jacksonville, Florida. Why you kind of invested in that market as well as also want to get into currently what are some of the challenges that you're facing in terms of raising capital and also just maybe in terms of asset management, construction management, those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about the markets, when I started my short-term rental business, I knew I wanted to be at a place where people like vacationing, but also that it wasn't going to be just cyclical and I wasn't going to get any income during the summer, which is when you don't have the Canadians or Midwesterns.
Yeah.
Everyone that comes down to Florida, they're not here in the summer. So I wanted to find a place where I knew that all year long was going to get decent revenue, but also, there were times where it was going to be really good. So we decided to choose St. Pete. St. Pete, Florida is a great city, has a lot of tourism. It has the Dali Museum, which has the second biggest collection of Salvador Dali. It also has the St. Pete Pier, which is one of the greatest tourist attractions in Florida. And it just opened like in 2020. So pretty much the year that we opened our Airbnb business. So that was great. And also the beaches are considered, St. Pete won in 2021, the #1 beach in the US. So that was also really good. It's a place that so you look at all those metrics, and for the businesses that you are in. Now that I'm looking at large multifamily with long-term rents, we look at other metrics. That's why we chose Jacksonville, Florida. We choose population growth, which can be temporary, but then we also look at employment growth, which can be more. We can last for longer. We look at employment growth as far as the income, income growth. We look to invest in landlord-friendly states. That is very important to us because we are executing a business plan, and we want to be able to have control. If you don't have a tenant that's paying rent, what are our options, so we can continue executing the business plan for our investors. So that was very important to us. And also, there was a trend that started in the pandemic, which is a lot of people started moving to the Southeast. So everything in the Southeast, I like. I actually invested passively before I became a general partner for multifamily syndications. I invested passively on a deal with Jay Scott in Houston, Texas, 409 units. So that was my first investment where I got exposed to this. Texas is the same thing. It also hits all the metrics that I'm interested in. So that's why I choose those markets. And talking about the challenges that I have encountered, we're always learning. This is a learning experience for me. I will forever be a student of real estate investing. This is not something that stops. That's why I continue to go to conferences. I continue to learn about new operators, about what they're doing, about what their criteria is, how things are changing in the current dynamics of the market that we're going in now with a possible recession. So I always like to keep those things present. I think one of the, maybe, I don't know if I should call this a challenge, but one of the things that I did as a general partner is that I invested everything in Jacksonville, Florida. And granted, I have only been doing this pretty much this year. I've only been a part of 3 deals as far as a general partner. But I would like to start diversifying more and start finding new deals in different markets. I would like to be involved possibly in Georgia, Texas, Carolinas. Those are all markets that I like, among many other markets that I would like to be involved. Arizona. So I'm definitely looking at other markets. I think there are great markets that are available. But yeah, to answer your question, I think diversifying is something that I haven't done. And as far as challenges about, for example, working with my investors, I have noticed that everyone is now more, they're waiting. Everyone's waiting for a recession. So when you have a deal that you're raising capital for, everyone's waiting to see what's going to happen in the next few months. And with all the reason, there's just a lot of uncertainty about what's happened. We don't have the crystal ball. No one knows what's going to happen or to what extent. I have my opinions, but those are just my opinions based on what I see, based on my studies, my going to conferences, talking to people, reading a lot of reports. But I also don't know. So I understand the mindset of the investors. And the way to overcome those challenges is to make sure that you have a solid plan, that the underwriting is sound, that it is covering all the assumptions for the continued rise in interest rates, for the rent growth, how you can calculate rent growth. Of course, I don't think it's realistic to continue to calculate double-digit rent growth in the future. So we just need to be mindful about all those things. We can have our opinions. We could be bullish in some aspects of what's going to happen, but we just don't know.
Yeah. No, all great points, and thanks for covering all of that. I mean, I myself and Khadija, I was talking to her about this last night, that there's so much information. Like, I'm also the same way as you are, like constantly watching videos, listening to podcasts, and
Reading,
and reading
exactly.
and because I want to know what's my 2023 going to look like, right? Not only because of the pending recession coming, but also like, okay, what are maybe some other markets that we need to look into? There's also like setting up more broker relationships in those markets, and how are we going to capital raise in 2023? What's that plan going to look like, right? That's the most important question right now. So it's, thanks for covering all of that. And we're kind of on the same boat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
and
Nobody has that crystal ball, right? So, but I think that, Jose and I have been investors for similar, like over 10 years now. And I think that it is going to be an interesting year. It's going to be the first time in the last, I'd say at least in the last 3 to 5 years, where you have to be very good at what you do and you have to be extremely creative in the way that you think if you're going to make it. So I
absolutely.
think that, the market was very favorable, even for us. I'm not talking about other investors only. Even for us, the market was extremely favorable in the last 3 years and extremely forgiving of mistakes, right? Because of all these things you mentioned, like, double-digit rent growths and double-digit appreciation sometimes even, right? So like you're talking about a market that was very, very favorable, but it's definitely, if we're going to have an honest conversation, there's definitely a lot that's changing right now. And, I think that people need to be cognizant of who they're working with and how they're operators and how they're selecting their deals, what deals that they're entering into, and really like, how are you going to ensure that you make this deal happen, rather than just expecting that the market is going to naturally carry that for you.
Absolutely. These are all great points. And I do believe, even though we are facing uncertainty, unemployment will probably start raising, which in turn is going to cause that the occupancy rate is going to, decrease. Of course, large multifamily is not as volatile as the stock market or even as single family homes. So we'll definitely see less volatility there, but we just don't know. We just don't know to what extent these things are going to happen. But having said that, I still think that it is not the time to just stay on the sidelines. I think,
100%.
like to Jose's point, also, continuing to create those broker relationships. And if you're a passive investor, start analyzing different operators, set up those Zoom calls, look at the deals that they've done or the ones that there's still deals out there. So look at those deals, whether you invest or not, get familiar with the terms, with the metrics that they use. I would say this is the time, if you're looking to get into passive investing, this is the time to learn how to do it. It doesn't involve as much time as an active investor, but this is the time to really understand, get to know operators. So you start doing your homework, so you feel comfortable. So when good deals start coming up, maybe in Q1 of next year, maybe in Q2, who knows? I think you can even find good deals now. But if you start just doing all your homework and you start kind of getting acquainted with all the processes involved, then you're going to be ready. So I just don't think it's never a time to be on the sidelines, and you're always going to encounter difficulties in the stages of the cycles. We're going through a cycle right now, a part of the cycle where interest rates it's really hard right now to get a loan, and one where the numbers will work. And then a few months ago, it was easier, but everything was crazy expensive. So there's always going to be a difficulty. And the next year, we'll probably find deals, but there's not going to be any capital, or not a lot of people are going to want to invest because everyone's just waiting in the side. So there's always going to be a difficulty, and you just deal with it as you go. And uncertainty is coming. You prepare for it. You act, and then you'll get the experience, the knowledge to make a great decision when the opportunity comes to you.
Yeah, that's great.
No, I think I totally agree with what you're saying, because nobody knows the perfect time to invest, right? You can kind of make an educated guess on when to get in, but there's so many factors that go into getting into a deal, right? Like you mentioned, last year we all thought the prices was too high, it was too competitive. So that was the challenge. Now it's the interest rate. So there's always going to be some kind of a barrier that,
Yeah.
or maybe an excuse that people will gravitate towards on not taking the action.
That action. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, that's great, Yuri. So as we kind of come to a close here, I just wanted to ask you about, you're such a motivated guy. You have a young family. What's your why? Like, what keeps you driven? What keeps you motivated? And, it's easy to kind of get to a point where, like you have some investments now, you have this income, you don't have to, you're essentially financially free from your work, from your W-2. So what keeps you going, and what helps you to stay motivated to achieve some bigger things?
Yeah, so I have a couple of whys. Of course, my family. My family. It's what drives me. It's the reason I wake up every day wanting to do better things. So I guess I'm answering your last question at the beginning. That's kind of my why. As soon as I started having kids, it's crazy. All of a sudden, I was more motivated to just do great for them and by them. So one of my biggest whys is to have that time. And this could sound repetitive. A lot of people talk about that. But when you actually, like, I quit my job last year. When that actually happens and you start, you all of a sudden you can be at every breakfast and every lunch. I can pick up my kids from school. I can just be there, more present. I can read books when they're about to go to bed. When I can just be more present, just one thing is to talk about it, and what the other thing is when you actually start experiencing it, it's everything. So that's one of the reasons why I do what I do. And also, I've always, my personality, I've always wanted, even when I was in Verizon, my personality just of wanting to like help and serve, help others. When I find something like a best practice. I used to do this in my W-2 jobs, and I do it today. I'm always trying to share my information with others, which is why I'm very active on social media. When my mentor friend, gave me so much value and helped me with my first multifamily project, I asked him, hey, how can I pay you back? He always said, just pay it forward. Do not pay me back, just pay it forward. So it also aligns with my personality style. So I always want to serve. I always want to give my time to others when they book calls with me. Not everyone is an investor. Sometimes people book calls with me, and there's someone that doesn't have money and they just want to learn. And I give them, we talk for about an hour, and I'm going to continue doing that until I have no time to do that. I will. Mm-hmm. I will try my best to continue to do that. I mean, it's not like I get calls every day with that type. I also get, investors that want to invest on my projects, which is great. But until I have the time, until I can continue to bring that, give that value to others, I will continue to share my best practices, the things that I'm experiencing. That's why I do my social media every day. I try to put out content every day to show people, for free, how you can just learn more about investing in real estate based on my personal experience. And I decided to do everything in Spanish because I am an immigrant. I came here 24 years ago when I was 16 years old from Colombia. And, there's a lot of guys like me in the US, but not a lot of guys doing it in Spanish, helping, other immigrants that are hungry, that are eager to become investors, create passive income for their families, have financial freedom. So that's why I decided that I was going to focus on doing my content in Spanish. So most of my content, you'll find some stuff on LinkedIn in English, but Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook, it's all in Spanish. So
nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
what's how can people follow your success? You have golandscapital.com is your business website. Maybe you can share some of your other handles.
Absolutely. So I use the same handle for all my social media, which is Yuri Alex Investor. Yuri Alex Investor. You can find that's my handle for Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And then on my Instagram, you can go to my link in bio, and you can find the links to my website. If I have upcoming webinars, sometimes I put some webinar recordings there.
Yeah.
You can also book a call with me. If you go to my link in bio on my Instagram, free call. It doesn't mean you have to invest with me. I just like talking about real estate. So so you can find me. I think Instagram would be the better way because of my link in bio.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely link everything in our show notes. And I urge people to follow Yuri online or reach out if you want to. Like I said, he's such an awesome guy. So much positivity, definitely worth the call. So thanks again, Yuri, for being on the show, for sharing so openly and being so honest. We learned a lot, and I think that our audience will definitely benefit from, a lot of the honest conversations that we had today. Because I mean, really and truly, like at the end of the day, I may be biased, but there's no other vehicle like real estate out there. And I think the moral of the story today was, hey, like you said, you buy the real estate and you wait. There's no perfect time. There's no way to time this market. So
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation a lot.
All right. Awesome. Thanks,
Appreciate
Yuri.
it. Thanks, Yuri.